to item 5. Development Contributions Remission Application, the Canterbury Brain Collective and Cancer Society. Now, we did ask for some more information on the financial implication and the rate implication on these.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So when we're funding capital, the rule that we use as calculation is about 82 million is about 1% increase on rates overall. So the amount that we're talking about here is circa 310,000. So the rating impact on the general rate would be 0.004%.
0.004.
Correct.
Thank you.
And Madam Deputy Mayor, we just have an additional piece of information just about future policy review, and I would like John Higgins, our Head of Planning, to just inform members.
Yep.
Yeah, it was really just giving a heads up that after you consider this matter, there will be a policy review which you would have had a briefing about yesterday at the council briefing, and that's due to be completed by July 2024. So that will be an opportunity to consider how we deal with such matters as this in the overall scheme of the policy review or rebate schemes, etc.
So, John, in that light, do you think that a policy review could help address the precedent concern in this decision if we were to support Aaron's recommendation?
So if this was supported today and there was a precedent concern, that would only exist until we got the new policy in place in July 2024. So in the lead up to that, we could address those types of issues.
Okay, well, that's helpful. Questions? Tyler?
I'm
sorry. Mel, you were first. I'm sorry, Tyler. Mel.
I just understood before you said it was OPEX, but is it CAPEX?
Sorry, Mel, I can't hear. Can you repeat the question?
I understood before, didn't we ask, I think Sarah asked, if we decide to give the remission, is it OPEX or CAPEX? And I thought the answer was OPEX.
It is OPEX.
But
yeah,
he's just talked about CAPEX.
Yes,
it's about pay. Russell, explain why it's actually OPEX, because it's in relation to what we have to do on
but if it's
pay
OPEX, it's a higher rate of implication.
Yes, you're quite correct. But what this is doing, the development contributions are the funding from development contributions, we'll need to borrow it. And so the cost of borrowing is what I've just outlined.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So even though it's OPEX, it's borrowed OPEX. Is that what you're saying?
It's a capital funding stream. Okay?
So it's not OPEX, it's CAPEX.
Correct.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Tyler?
talking about precedent between now and July 2024. Are there any other anticipated developments in the future that are similar to the Braintree Trust and Cancer Society?
Yes, I'm aware of one who is waiting on the outcome of what happens here. They have made inquiries into a remission.
Are you able to give an approximate number?
Well, I'm only aware of one at the moment. DC's around $105,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sarah?
And can I check, is that a more metropolitan type build or is it a more local community type build?
It's a local community type build.
Aaron?
Yeah, and I do realise that this is a departure from a policy that you guys have adhered to, but isn't the reason we have a council to make decisions is departures can be made from time to time, even though we do support nearly every recommendation that goes through, but changes are made based on deputations, and that's the purpose of the table, correct? Otherwise, just you guys could just do all the paperwork and the city would carry on.
So council can depart from policy, but here my understanding is that it would be that the councillors consider it to be unique and compelling, which would be consistent with policy if
So
that's
then it
what the
makes it
council has
consistent.
determined.
Because we believed it was unique and compelling.
Yep.
Thank you. Very good answer.
But you as staff did not believe it was unique and compelling, either of them.
Probably because there are other organisations similar, community not-for-profits who have paid DCs in the past and will continue to be levied DCs unless they apply for a remission.
Yeah. Tyler?
Sorry, I'm asking some tough questions today. It's around the Braintree Trust, and are there any other organisations that are doing similar work to the Braintree group?
Not that we're aware of.
So would that make them unique?
Well,
Sorry, it's a hard question. I do apologise.
No, we both acknowledge that both projects are in their own way unique and compelling. But the policy is about, is there a unique and compelling reason why development should not have to pay DCs? And when we ask that question, we come up with, well, no. There are plenty of organisations who have undertaken similar projects who have been levied DCs. There's no matter of levying a DC being unfair. So what you're effectively doing today is providing the organisations with a grant, and you're using development contributions as a means to do that.
Okay. And historically, have they applied for funding in the past around things like capital endowment or anything of the sort?
These two organisations?
Both of them, yeah.
Not aware of the Cancer Society having either, but the Braintree have got a grant from the Capital Endowment Fund and in receipt of a rates remission. That's,
Okay.
yeah. in the
That was
report.
$100,000 from the Capital Endowment Fund.
Yeah.
Okay.
And rates of around $50,000 a year remitted.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Just looking on the Zoom. Right, okay. So it's moved and seconded. I'll open it up for debate. Who'd like to fire away? Mel?
Well, I am a believer in following process and policy and making funding under a clear process and one that is fair. And a grant scheme is completely different to the idea today of a remission on development contributions. I'm not against funding organisations that do amazing work with a council grant, and the examples today show that they are compelling and they may do unique work in the field within which they operate. But they're not unique in that they contribute to society, that they're organisations that do good work or build buildings to provide those functions within. So I am against using a development contribution remission that doesn't assess the merits of the organisation against the relative amounts that we should, that they would like funding for, if you understand what I mean. So if this passes, I think actually that this is an example of the council throwing ratepayers' cash around willy-nilly without staff advice to assess against the merits of the organisation, so I won't support it today.
Thank you. Mark?
Contrary to Councillor Coker's thoughts of not supporting, I will support this. I find the case that was made by the Cancer Society and the Braintree group to be quite compelling and quite unique, so I'm happy to support this today.
Aaron? Can we correct that?
Yeah, I'd actually ask all of my councillors to support this, and even Melanie, you did. That is a fair point you raised, but I would still ask you to reconsider during the debate as we hear other people. Yes, a unique and compelling case was made, but why even have a remissions policy if you don't use it? And even when the staff go through and they have decided that it doesn't meet the criteria, the table still has a decision to make, and many times we will make decisions that aren't in line with staff recommendations, and because they are following their relatively strict criteria, otherwise they would be being willy-nilly with money. And this table has that opportunity. But if you go out and talk to your communities and you play them back the video from this morning of the unique and compelling case that was made by the Braintree Trust and by the Cancer Society, you will struggle to find residents in this city that don't agree that they are unique and compelling and would be happy for them to receive a DC rebate. That would be, if you go out and speak to people, they will definitely support this, and we are only representatives of those people. That is our role at this table, is to represent the public. And so that's why I would, from the bottom of my heart, implore everyone at this table to support it. I've been out there, I've had a look. I think the place is fantastic. I was there with my disability hat on. Thank goodness I wasn't a patient or had family members in there at this point, but anyone who does, I just thank all of the people involved that have set up those facilities to facilitate them coming to such an amazing city and having our arms wide open to embrace them on their journey through what for most of them will be the worst part of their life. So I do implore you, and I even hope, Melanie, you do change your mind based on everyone's debates. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. Yanni?
Yeah, cool. I just wanted to make the point that I would much rather prefer to give these remissions based on applications that are made with lots of detail, with heartfelt presentations about the important and unique work that these groups do, which I think both have done today. If we want to talk about giving out money willy-nilly, council putting in a big pot of money in the central city for residential, for Airbnbs, for $500,000 apartments is willy-nilly. So this is actually more specific. This is deliberate. I do support the work that these groups do. And I think as a council, we should be trying to help them to do the amazing things that they can. These groups probably save us millions of dollars a year by the good work that they do in our community. And I know there's other groups that do the same, but when you're talking about these particular health groups and the specific work that they do, it is very unique and compelling, and I think we should support it. So I'm in favour of being specific and deliberate and giving them a remission. I don't think there's anything willy-nilly about what we are going to do today if we vote for this.
Thanks, Yanni. Jake?
Yeah, it gives me no pleasure to vote against the wording that Councillor Kewen has put up, but it's not the right thing to do to vote for this today. The reality is I support increasing our support to the community sector, but we should do that in a way that's fit, right, and proper and appropriate, and that's through a grant. It's not through a quick and dirty backdoor pseudo grant by way of waiving a development contribution that is there as that has a different intended purpose. And I actually feel really sorry for all of the groups that didn't think to apply to use this loophole to get a big backdoor grant. And I just, I think also as John made the point, if we vote for this today, we will have proven that we are simply incapable of making, of saying no to people, and that's really unfortunate. And we will have to change the policy, and we will have to take that bit out that says you can come to council with a unique and compelling case, because it will make the case that simply we can't say no, and we think everything is unique and compelling.
Thanks, Jake. Victoria, and then Sarah.
Kia ora, thank you. Look, admittedly, this is a really tough one, and I want to thank Craig and Phil for coming and presenting to us today and speaking in such a compelling way. I have enormous respect and admiration for the work that the Cancer Society does and the Braintree Collective. All of us have connection in some way, shape or form with families who are suffering and who could do with some support. It concerns me greatly that there's a lack of central government funding for essential health-related services, but that's another conversation. So I applaud your innovative approach to service provision, and I appreciate it's extremely tough financially out there, and I know that you do a lot of work to self-fund, but we all recognise that there's enormous pressure on our philanthropic funding sector, and everybody's in that same boat. As a council, we're also under extreme financial pressure, and most factors are outside our control. But what can we control? We can control the priority of our spending and where our focus is. And I think that wellbeing is a big focus for us as a council. We have an opportunity here to make a real positive difference for so many people in our wider community. And staff and many councillors have agreed that in their own way, these organisations are unique and compelling. And I think the purpose of our policy is to find a way to support such organisations like this. So as Aaron said, why else do we have a policy? I think this should be fitting in it. I do think it is unique and compelling. I note the rating impact is pretty minimal, and we should be supporting this. So I will be voting to support it. Thank you.
Sarah?
Kia ora koutou. I'll be supporting the motion on the table at the moment. I was thinking about a foreshadow motion to decrease them to make them the same, the 57,000, but I won't be doing that. For me, one of the things that makes these unique and compelling is their metropolitan and wider significance. So they are not one in a set of small local community facilities. And so I wouldn't want any small local community facility to think that this is a precedent setting for them. These facilities help, and the people that volunteer and are paid to work within them help members of our community and their families at times when they're really struggling. They do create wellbeing, they create community connection. And while, like Councillor McClellan, I would prefer to be able to support them through a grant of some sort to help offset this, the reality is that our Strengthening Communities grant funding is completely over capacity, oversubscribed. There's not enough in there currently, and we didn't allocate extra in our annual plan round. And if we chose to get them to do it by a grant or something, that would mean that other organisations that we want to support right now would then miss out. And so in some ways this is making up for the lack of Strengthening Communities funding, and I think we do need to look seriously in the long-term plan at increasing our Strengthening Communities funding. We have also just proven in our previous decision on a business applying for funding for DC credits that we don't just willy-nilly hand out council money, ratepayers money, that we do say no and don't set precedents and those kind of things as well. And so I'll be supporting this today. Thanks.
Tim?
Yeah, thank you. I just would ask my colleagues just to be a bit more respectful when you're talking to each other with regards to opinions, because we do have different opinions, but the one thing I think we all share around this table is the absolute respect for both of these organisations and the work that they do. My concern, and why I won't be supporting this on the table, is I don't believe this is the process to go through. We need to build with both of these organisations ongoing relationships and understanding of what they need. They have both said that they will need support ongoing. I think there are better ways to go through this and talk with them and build the relationship and understanding of what their requirements are into the future. We changed some years ago from yearly funding to some organisations that were well established to do 3-year funding. This is the way to go and to build those relationships and understanding what these organisations need. Not a one-off remission, which is then going to affect income, and we all say, oh, it's 0.004, whatever it is. But when we come to the long-term plan and when we are looking at strengthening community funding, we will suddenly have less money. And I think we've got to have a bit more vision about these organisations which we want to support, because there is no question about the quality of these organisations. But the question is, how best as a council do we support them? And I do not believe this is the best way to go. I think we are better to have a long-term funding arrangement with them and also build those relationships with them. So I just think this is a one-off and it's a shallow, and I'm sorry, I can't support it.
Thanks, Tim. Sam?
Yeah, hey, thank you, Pauline, and I really enjoyed the debate, and thank you, Aaron and Vic, for putting it on the table. Look, I largely agree with Sarah on this and Yanni, but I think the most important thing here is that And Tim, I get where you're coming from, but the most important thing is actually they're not coming in every year for funding. And what they've got is a unique set of circumstances where they've gone and raised, and you can shake your head, but it's the reality. They're not coming in every year for that. I think, fundamentally the question should be asked, what are we here for if we can't help people? And in this one, they've both demonstrated very, very well that this one-off difference will make a significant impact. It would be my expectation that they are not back in next year for funding to exhaust other funds. This is something we can do now that will make a real difference. And I'd really hope that people just think about that. We can have as many policies and processes and that as we like, but fundamentally, if we can't help people, what are we here for?
Thanks, Sam. It is a difficult one, and it's been really good debate on both sides. And I think I agree with Tim that if any member votes against Aaron's motion, it's not to be seen as not supportive of the quality of both of these projects. And I know myself, I'm incredibly impressed with both of the builds, both of the capital projects, and both of the community outreach and support and benefit they offer. But I too am opposed to the process here. I don't think it's right. And I don't think either of these organisations will fall over without our funding in this year, without the remission. Yes, it's a small amount of impact, but we're facing a big headwind with our LTP, and every small bit adds up. We have to be very, very careful. And there is precedent setting until we sort out the loophole in the policy, which is considerable time away. Who knows what's going to come up? And I don't even know if there's a metropolitan clause in there that differentiates between metro and suburban, or local. So no one's denying that both of these projects are unique and compelling and very, very worthy of respect. But it's the process here that's the policy. There's nothing unique and compelling that would convince me to change my opinion on the staff recommendation about the policy. So, it's a very difficult one, but I'm not going to support Aaron's motion today. So is there anyone else that would like to speak to this? If not, I will... Did we have a legal note there on this one?
Yes,
Where is it?
That's the third.
Oh, there's the noting. Just draw your attention to the noting provision in 3, that this is consistent with the DC contribution policy 2021 as both organisations made a unique and compelling case directly to council. That's added to the motion. All right, I'll put that. Aaron? Yes. Yeah.
I just will thank everyone for the debate around this, and I absolutely respect anyone's position who does vote against this for the reasons they have stated around the process. But I will just call out one person, and not in a negative way, in a positive way. I'm actually going to thank Sarah for what she said, and she changed her mind on, not on the decision, but on the quantum. And we had a wee discussion in the break, so I will give credit where credit's due. We had a wee discussion, and she's changed her mind on the quantum, so I thank her for that and thank her for her words. Very well done.
And I'd like to thank you, Aaron, for thanking Sarah. Very good. Now, I think that we will probably call for a division on this one. We'll call for a division straight away. So I'll put the motion. So we're voting against, we're voting on Aaron's.
That's it. Thank you.
Councillor Templeton. Councillor McClellan.
No.
Councillor McDonald.
Yes.
Councillor Johansson.
Aye.
Councillor Moore.
Yes.
Councillor Donovan. Yes. Councillor Coker. Councillor Peters.
Yes.
Councillor Scandrett.
No.
Councillor Kewen.
Yes.
Councillor Goff.
Yes.
Councillor Henstock.
Yes.
Councillor Fields.
Yes.
Councillor Harrison Hunt. Deputy Mayor Cotter.
No.
11 for, 4 against.
So Aaron, that's carried. Well done. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. That was really good debate. There'll be some smiley faces in the gallery there. Okay.